All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We are going to learn 10 new English words. But forget about flashcards. We're going to use a story to make them absolutely unforgettable. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so let me just ask you this. How in the world are you supposed to get 10 tricky words to actually stick in your brain all at the same time? It feels kind of impossible, doesn't it? You learn one or two, and then the others just poof, they're gone. It's a super common problem for anyone trying to build up their vocabulary.
Well, here's the secret. You don't, at least not in the way you'd think. The real trick is to learn their story. See, our brains are just hardwired for narratives. We remember stories so much better than we remember random isolated facts. So today, that's what we're going to do. Build a story that makes these words stick for good.
Every good story has to start somewhere, right? Our story's no different. It kicks off, like so many great tales do, with an origin, which brings us perfectly to our very first word.
So the first word on our journey is Aboriginal. Now, this is an adjective, and it basically just means native, or something that's been in a place right from the earliest possible times. You might think of Aboriginal cultures or Aboriginal traditions, the very first ones.
And here's the easy way to remember it. Just look at the word itself. Aboriginal. The clue is literally sitting right there. Just get a mental picture of the original people who lived in a land before anyone else. That image, that's what's going to lock in the meaning for you.
Okay, so that naturally leads us to the noun version of the word Aborigines. This isn't describing something, it's referring to the people themselves, the original inhabitants of a country. So Aboriginal describes them, and Aborigines are them. Makes sense, right?
And the trick for this one? Just as easy. Think ab-origins. The word contains origins, which is your hook to remember the first people, the very origin of a nation's population. Now, in our story, let's say we want to tell this long, epic history of the Aborigines. But we're short on time. We need the quick version. What we need to do is abridge it. To abridge is a verb, and it means you shorten a piece of writing, like a novel or a long report, but you do it without losing the main point.
So how do you remember this one? Well, think about it. Abridge. What does a bridge do? It creates a shortcut over a valley or a river, right? It shortens your journey. So to abridge a book is to create a shortcut through the story.
And of course, that brings us to the noun form, which is abridgment. So after you abridge a book, what you have in your hands is an abridgment. It's the finished, shortened version of that much larger work.
This one's super straightforward. You're just taking the verb abridge and adding the little suffix ment to the end to make it a thing. An abridgment is what you get from abridging. Just picture holding a little pocket-sized version of a giant 1,000-page novel.
Okay, things were going a little too smoothly, right? Every good story needs a little bit of drama, a bit of conflict. So, our shortened history of the Aborigines is about to take a bit of a dark turn. Imagine a new government comes in and decides a law protecting their land is just, well, not convenient anymore. So, this new government decides to abrogate the treaty that was protecting the native lands. Now, this is a pretty heavy-duty word. To abrogate something means you officially cancel or repeal a law or some kind of formal agreement. It's a big deal, and it always has serious consequences.
Okay, how do we lock this one in? You can try to think abrogate, maybe picture an official standing at a gate and revoking a law's access. But honestly, I think a more powerful image is just a big judge's gavel slamming down, boom, officially wiping that law off the books.
So, with their law gone, what happens next? Well, some of our characters have no choice but to get out of there. They have to abscond, and that means to leave really quickly and secretly, usually because you're trying to avoid getting caught or arrested.
You want to remember this one? Just picture a classic movie scene. A thief, maybe with a bag of loot over their shoulder, tiptoeing away in the middle of the night. That secret, hurried escape, that is the perfect image for abscond.
So, they've escaped. But here's the thing. They feel guilty. They didn't want to break this new, unfair law, but they felt like they had no other choice. So what they're really looking for now is absolution. And absolution is just a formal kind of forgiveness. It's a declaration that frees you from blame or guilt.
And the clue is right there in the word itself. The solution to guilt is absolution. The classic image for this is a priest in a church formally forgiving someone's sins, basically wiping the slate clean. It's all about being efficiently clear.
Okay, we're heading into the final chapter of our little story. And this is where things take a really unexpected turn. The whole situation starts to feel, well, a little bizarre. Things are about to get strange, speed up, and end in a way that absolutely no one saw coming.
I mean, think about it. You cancel a law, you force people to run away, and then they're the ones who have to ask for forgiveness for escaping? The whole thing is just completely absurd. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. That is the very definition of absurd.
How do you remember absurd? Just get this picture in your head, someone trying to walk around with shoes on their hands. It makes no sense, right? It's silly, it's illogical, it's absurd. That's the feeling you want to connect with this word.
But then something happens. People start hearing about this crazy, absurd story. Word gets out, and suddenly events begin to accelerate. And to accelerate, as you probably know, just means to speed up. Things start happening way, way faster.
The word itself gives you a hint. The root celer actually means fast. But the easiest way to remember this is just to think of the accelerator pedal in a car. You press it, you go faster. Simple as that. That's the feeling here, a sudden burst of speed.
So where does all this lead? Well, the public outcry becomes huge. The old law is brought back, and in this amazing twist, the leaders who had to abscond are now seen as heroes. Their courage is recognized, and they receive the highest accolade. An accolade is an award or a huge expression of praise and honor.
And to really cement this word in your mind, just picture that classic Olympic moment. An athlete standing on the podium, getting a gold medal placed around their neck while the crowd cheers. That is an accolade. It's the perfect triumphant end to our story.
So, we've just gone through 10 words. But what about that memory trick I mentioned at the very beginning? Well, here's the thing. The story is the trick. It's the mental framework that links all of these words together in a chain you can actually remember.
Let's just quickly run it back. We had a story about a native people, right? That's Aboriginal. Their long history had to be shortened, which is abridged. A law protecting them was cancelled or abrogated. This forced some to escape, to abscond. They then sought to be forgiven, seeking absolution. The whole situation was so ridiculous, so absurd. Then events picked up speed, they accelerated. And in the end, they received an award, an accolade. See how that works? The entire story is one big memory device.
It's pretty cool, right? When you stop trying to memorize a boring list and instead turn it into a narrative, the words just stick. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other stories are just hiding inside the words we use every single day, waiting for us to find them?